Good evening, Kenton community. My name is Sabatino Samato. I'm your superintendent, and this is your weekly connection update. Quick overview of the connection this week. First, in my section, we talk about blessings in a backpack. It is a food drive in our elementary schools. Then we move on to students visiting the Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site. We talk a little bit about Portrait of a Graduate, New York State requirements. Then we move on to celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month that started just this past Monday. Then we move into our section that's there every week, our safety tips for families, focusing on the Heimlich maneuver. We focused on it before, but it's really important that we focus on it again. We get into our district highlights, and then we finish off with actually a hero story that utilized the Heimlich maneuver. Let's get a little bit deeper into the connection. First, blessings in a backpack food drive. And folks, anything that you could do, this food drive is going on for another week in the elementary schools. Special thank you to our staff, but especially Sean O'Harrigan and the Kenton Kiwanis for all their dedication in this initiative. Really, folks, this is a wonderful non-for-profit organization dedicated to providing weekend meals for some of our students, and it's being coordinated right here in our schools. Now listen, every grade level has a different focus. Kindergarten, individual packed crackers, pretzels, or popcorn. First grade, individually packed granola or breakfast bars. Second grade, individual fruit cups or applesauce pouches. Third grade, individual cereal bowls or pouches. Fourth grade, ready-to-eat Chef Boyardee pasta or any brand ready-to-eat soup, not condensed. So, and folks, really we focused on what individual grade levels can bring in so that there is a variety of items that can be put into that backpack. Remember, they are for our own Kenton kids and families. Do what you can to help us out. I always tell the kids, be a friend and help a friend out. Then we move on to students visit Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site. A real special thank you to Erie County Historical Commission. Really, the special thanks to their co-vice chair, Lindsay Lauren Visser, and Deputy County Executive Lisa Shimera, as well as all of our teachers and administrators and support staff that really coordinated these field trips that we have going for fourth graders. It's a wonderful opportunity to visit the Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site and learn about one of the most pivotal moments in our history. And really, folks, read this section. Just such a cool thing for our fourth graders. Educative, really is the word. The learning is in the doing, and they got to actually experience history by visiting this site. And once again, special thanks to those who supported our kiddos going to this very, very authentic field trip. Our next section focuses on Portrait of a Graduate. And folks, as many of you know, if you don't know, it is New York State's new explanation, new pathway of what students really need to know, understand, and be able to do by the time they graduate. And we have a little section here. Remember, Portrait of a Graduate was passed this past July. And we have a little section here that focuses on the changes and what they mean for students, parents, educators, administrators, school board members. It's a resource through New York State Education Department. Check out that section. Then we get into celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Runs every year from September 15th to October 15th. Just started this past week. And we're celebrating, kicking it off with celebrating a special individual, Antonia Novello, a Puerto Rican doctor who served as the 14th Surgeon General in the United States from 1990 to 1993. She has such a unique story about how she really had a medical condition when she was a youngster and how she pledged to become a doctor, and that's exactly what she did. Check out that story, a very influential person in our history in celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Then we move on to our safety tips for families. And folks, we focus once again, we've done this in the past in our connection, the Heimlich maneuver, what it means, how to do it. You remember, we use that Heimlich maneuver when an individual is choking. And we go into some specifics here about starting behind a person, what you do with your hand placement. You could see a video right now showing with some of these different maneuvers that you do for the Heimlich maneuver. I really encourage you to talk about this with kiddos because you never know. You don't plan for someone choking. And those difference in seconds can really save an individual's life. So really take a minute and just go over this section with kiddos and with family members. Then we get into our school and district highlights. District Harvest Festival takes place October 9th. Students sample new fruit salad being added to lunch menus. Big picture students use leftover ingredients for culinary lesson. Geico donates 100 backpacks full of school supplies for students from Kids in Need Foundation. And classes treated to healthy snack boxes through Farm to School program. That brings us to our recognition, and since we've been talking about the Heimlich maneuver in this edition of The Connection, we are going to focus on one of our own heroes, actually a couple heroes, a duo in our Lindbergh Elementary. A special thank you in Miss Simon's class to Miss Simon as well as Erica Higgins. You see, there was a kiddo that was choking on a piece of carrot. Miss Simon, of course, tried to dislodge that carrot by giving a couple slaps to the individual's back, to the student's back. And then Miss Higgins, a former EMT for 10 years, came over, gave the kiddo the Heimlich maneuver. Their story is right here, how the kiddo was able to dislodge that carrot because of that Heimlich maneuver. Very fitting for this week's connection, especially focusing on our safety tips for families. So once again, a special thank you to Miss Simon's kindergarten, the entire classroom, but especially Miss Simon and Miss Higgins for really moving quickly, really staying calm, and really doing everything that they could to help out one of our kiddos. And that brings us to the end of the connection this week, folks. We've had some beautiful weather, really focusing on some of the school year startups. A lot of times once we get going in the school year, some of that communication of routines starts to kind of fade away. We see that as educators with our kiddos. I encourage all families to really talk about those procedures and routines. Nothing beats those procedures and routines for our kiddos because that helps to develop great habits, and that is what we do in Kenton. It makes us Kenton strong, Kenton proud, and helps us to move Kenton forward. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.